There exists a power so profound, so intimately connected to our very essence, that ancient initiates guarded its secrets for millennia, and it rests literally within your grasp. Welcome, seekers of hidden wisdom. Today we embark upon a journey into one of humanity's most closely guarded esoteric teachings, the mystical science of the hands, and their capacity to unlock dormant energetic pathways that connect us to higher realms of consciousness and manifestation. For thousands of years, mystery schools from Egypt to Tibet, from the Hermetic traditions of Alexandria to the Kabbalistic circles of medieval Europe, have understood what modern humanity has largely forgotten, that our hands are not merely instruments of physical manipulation, but sacred conduits through which the very fabric of reality can be touched, shaped, and transformed. This knowledge was deliberately concealed from the uninitiated, passed down through carefully selected lineages of mystics, alchemists, and spiritual adepts who understood that in the wrong hands, quite literally, such power could be misused. But the time has come for this ancient wisdom to emerge from the shadows of secrecy. What you're about to discover has the potential to fundamentally alter how you perceive your own energetic nature and your capacity to influence the subtle forces that govern both your inner transformation and your outer circumstances. The greatest magic was never in wands or talismans. It was always in the sacred geometry of human touch. Prepare to unlock what the ancients called the keys of flesh and spirit, for your hands hold gateways that most will never recognize, let alone learn to open. To understand the true depth of this knowledge, we must journey back through the mists of time to the very cradles of human spiritual understanding. The recognition of the hands as sacred instruments of power predates recorded history, emerging from humanity's earliest attempts to comprehend the invisible forces that govern existence. In ancient Egypt, the mystery schools of Thoth, the god of wisdom and magic, taught that the human form was a microcosm of divine architecture. The hands, specifically, were understood to be the earthly manifestation of divine creative power. Hieroglyphic texts from the Temple of Edfu describe elaborate rituals where initiates learned to channel the breath of Ra through specific hand positions, creating what they called doorways of light, through which healing energies and spiritual insights could flow. The priests of Memphis possessed a secret doctrine known as Ket Ankh, literally the body of life, which detailed how each finger corresponded to elemental forces and celestial influences. They understood that by positioning their hands in certain configurations, they could align themselves with cosmic currents and direct these forces for healing, manifestation, and spiritual elevation. Moving eastward, we encounter the Hermetic tradition, founded upon the teachings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. The Hermetic axiom, as above, so below, found profound expression in their understanding of the hands. In the Corpus Hermeticum, we find references to the five-fold key of manifestation, each finger representing one of the classical elements, with the thumb serving as the quintessence that unifies and directs the others. The renowned Hermetic text known as the Emerald Tablet contains a veiled reference to this knowledge. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. Medieval alchemists understood this cryptic passage to refer, in part, to the correspondence between the microcosmic hands and the macrocosmic forces they could influence. The Kabbalistic tradition of Judaism developed perhaps the most sophisticated understanding of hand mysticism. The Sefer Yetzirah, or Book of Creation, describes how the 10 fingers correspond to the 10 Sephirot, the divine emanations through which God interacts with creation. Each finger was seen as a channel for specific divine attributes, the thumb for Keter, crown, representing divine will, the index finger for Chokhmah, wisdom, and so forth down the tree of life. Kabbalistic masters developed a practice called Yad HaKodesh, the Holy Hand, wherein specific finger positions and hand movements could invoke different aspects of divine energy. The famous 13th century Kabbalist Abraham Abulafia wrote extensively about these techniques in his work Sefer Chaye HaOlam Haba, describing how proper hand positioning during meditation could induce prophetic states and facilitate direct communion with angelic intelligences. In medieval Europe, the Knights Templar and other initiatic orders preserved and developed these teachings further. The Templar manuscript, known as the Chinon parchment, contains veiled references to the sacred gestures that were part of their inner rites. These warrior monks understood that true power came not from the sword, but from the ability to channel divine force through precise physical and energetic techniques. What these diverse traditions understood is that the hands serve as the bridge between intention and manifestation, between the realm of pure consciousness and the world of form. Biblical references to the laying on of hands for healing and blessing weren't merely symbolic. They represented a precise spiritual technology that early Christians inherited from Jewish mystical traditions. When Jesus spoke of moving mountains through faith, he was revealing the literal truth that focused intention, properly channeled through the body's energy centers, could influence physical reality in ways that ordinary consciousness cannot comprehend. The suppression of this knowledge began in earnest during the medieval persecution of various mystical groups. As institutional religious and political powers consolidated, the understanding of human beings as sovereign conduits of divine energy became threatening to established hierarchies. The knowledge went underground, preserved within secret societies and hermetic orders that maintained the transmission through carefully guarded initiation rites. To comprehend how the hands can serve as gateways to hidden energetic pathways, we must first understand the fundamental esoteric principles that govern this phenomenon. At the heart of all mystical traditions lies the recognition that what we call physical reality is merely the densest expression of a multi-layered cosmos composed of increasingly subtle realms of energy and consciousness. The human being, according to esoteric anatomy, exists simultaneously across all these dimensional planes. We possess what the ancients called multiple bodies, the physical form we recognize, but also etheric, astral, mental, and spiritual bodies that interpenetrate and extend beyond our visible boundaries. The hands, as the most sensitive and articulated extremities of our physical form, serve as the primary interface points between these various levels of our being. In the Hermetic understanding, the principle of correspondence reveals that each part of the human body resonates with specific cosmic forces. The hands embody the active, projective aspect of our energetic nature. They are the instruments through which our will, properly focused and refined, can reach out to touch and influence the subtle substance from which all manifest reality emerges. The 5 fingers represent what alchemists called the quintessential manifestation of elemental power. The thumb corresponds to the element of spirit or akasha, the primordial substance from which all other elements arise. The index finger channels air, governing communication, inspiration, and mental clarity. The middle finger resonates with fire, directing will, passion, and transformative energy. The ring finger embodies water, influencing emotions, intuition, and the flow of life force. The little finger represents earth, grounding spiritual energies into practical manifestation. But these correspondences go deeper than mere symbolic associations. Each finger contains specific energy channels, what Eastern traditions call nadis, and Western esotericism terms etheric meridians. These channels connect to major energy centers throughout the body and ultimately to what Kabbalists call the 4 worlds of existence: Asiya, the physical world; Yetzirah, the world of formation; Beria, the world of creation; and Atziluth, the world of emanation. The secret lies not in the physical gesture alone, but in the conscious awakening and direction of the subtle energies that flow through these sacred channels. The positioning of the hands and fingers creates what esoteric science terms energetic geometries, specific patterns that resonate with corresponding patterns in the fabric of reality itself. When we form these geometries consciously and with proper intent, we create what could be called sympathetic resonance with the forces we seek to influence or channel. This principle finds expression in the ancient teaching of contagion and sympathy preserved in magical traditions worldwide. Like attracts like, and properly formed energetic patterns in the microcosm of our personal field can influence similar patterns in the macrocosm of universal forces. The breath plays a crucial role in this process. In Sanskrit, the word prana encompasses both breath and life force. They are inseparable aspects of the same phenomenon. When specific hand positions are combined with conscious breathing techniques, we create what the tradition calls mudras, literally meaning seals or locks that preserve and direct subtle energies. But the Western traditions developed their own sophisticated understanding of this relationship. Hermetic texts speak of the pneuma, the divine breath that animates all creation. By coordinating hand positions with specific breathing patterns, the practitioner learns to consciously direct this cosmic life force for healing, manifestation, and spiritual development. The concept of sympathetic resonance extends to the mental and emotional dimensions as well. Each hand position naturally tends to evoke specific states of consciousness. This isn't merely psychological conditioning. It reflects the deep interconnection between physical form, energetic flow, and consciousness itself. When we position our hands in certain ways, we literally reshape our entire energetic field, which in turn influences our mental and emotional states, which then affects our capacity to perceive and interact with subtle dimensions of reality. In truth, consciousness and energy are two faces of a single phenomenon, and the hands are the sacred instruments through which we learn to consciously participate in this cosmic dance. The ultimate principle underlying all hand-based esoteric work is what the ancients called the doctrine of signatures, the understanding that everything in creation bears the invisible signature of the divine intelligence that created it. Our hands, with their unique combination of sensitivity, mobility, and symbolic significance, carry the signature of our capacity to participate consciously in the ongoing creation of reality. This is why traditional initiation ceremonies invariably include the teaching of specific hand positions and gestures. These aren't mere ritual formalities. They are precise technologies for awakening dormant capacities and establishing connection with higher orders of consciousness and energy. Throughout history, masters of the inner arts have documented remarkable phenomena arising from the conscious application of these hand-based practices. Their testimonies provide us with glimpses into the extraordinary potentials that await those who approach this knowledge with proper preparation and reverence. Paracelsus, the great 16th century physician-alchemist, wrote extensively about what he called the magnetic virtues of the human hand. In his work De Natura Rerum, he describes witnessing master healers who could, through specific hand positions and mental focus, direct healing energies across great distances. He noted that these practitioners invariably emphasize the importance of inner purification and spiritual development as prerequisites for such abilities. The renowned 18th century mystic Emanuel Swedenborg documented his own experiences with what he termed spiritual correspondences, manifesting through hand positions during his visionary states. In his spiritual diary, he describes how certain configurations of the hands would spontaneously arise during his profound spiritual experiences, and how consciously forming these positions could facilitate entry into higher states of consciousness. Franz Anton Mesmer, though often dismissed by conventional historians, preserved and developed understanding of what he called animal magnetism, the invisible force that could be channeled through human touch and gesture. His student, the Marquis de Puysegur, documented numerous cases where specific hand positions dramatically enhanced the flow of this therapeutic energy. More recently, the Russian mystic George Gurdjieff incorporated hand-based practices into his work on human transformation. Students of the Gurdjieff tradition report that certain hand positions, taught only to advanced practitioners, could produce profound alterations in consciousness and perception. Gurdjieff himself suggested that these techniques represented fragments of an ancient science preserved within certain spiritual lineages. The Sufi tradition has maintained sophisticated practices involving hand positions in their sobet or spiritual gatherings. The 13th century Sufi master, Ibn Arabi, wrote about the sacred geometry of devotion enacted through specific hand and body positions during mystical states. Contemporary Sufi teachers continue to report that these practices can facilitate direct spiritual transmission between teacher and student. In the Christian mystical tradition, Numerous saints and mystics have reported spontaneous hand phenomena during profound spiritual experiences. Saint Teresa of Avila describes how her hands would naturally form specific positions during ecstatic states, and how consciously maintaining these positions could help induce similar states of divine union. These testimonies point to a consistent recognition across cultures and centuries. The hands possess an innate capacity to serve as instruments of spiritual realization and energetic transformation. Modern practitioners working with these traditional approaches continue to report remarkable results. Serious students of Hermetic and Kabbalistic practices describe enhanced intuitive abilities, accelerated healing processes, and increased effectiveness in manifestation work when proper hand techniques are integrated into their spiritual practice. What emerges from these accounts is not a collection of supernatural claims, but rather evidence of natural human capacities that can be developed through proper training and application. The consistency of reports across different traditions and time periods suggests that we are dealing with reproducible phenomena rather than mere wishful thinking or cultural conditioning. The key insight that emerges from all these testimonies is that the most profound effects arise not from the mechanical performance of hand positions, but from the integration of physical gesture with purified intention, emotional coherence, and spiritual understanding. The hands become truly powerful only when they serve as expressions of an awakened and unified consciousness. We have journeyed together through the hidden corridors of an ancient wisdom, exploring how the simple act of conscious touch can become a gateway to extraordinary transformation. From the temple mysteries of Egypt to the meditation halls of medieval mystics, from the laboratories of Renaissance alchemists to the sacred circles of contemporary seekers, the message remains consistent. Within your hands lies a power that can reshape both your inner experience and your outer reality. This knowledge represents more than mere technique. It is an invitation to remember your true nature as a conscious participant in the cosmic process of creation. When you learn to approach your hands not as mere physical appendages, but as sacred instruments of divine expression, you begin to awaken to your authentic role as a bridge between worlds, a translator of heaven's intentions into earthly manifestation. The greatest secret is not that this power exists, but that it has been waiting patiently within you all along, ready to awaken the moment you recognize its presence. Yet what we have explored today represents only the threshold of a much vaster mystery. The deeper mysteries, the advanced techniques preserved within the inner circles of traditional schools, the methods for working with group energetics, the practices that can open direct communication with higher intelligences, these await those who demonstrate the sincerity and commitment worthy of such profound teachings. The path forward requires more than intellectual understanding. It demands the cultivation of inner qualities that the ancients considered essential: patience to unfold gradually, discernment to distinguish genuine experience from fantasy, and the courage to transform yourself in ways that ordinary consciousness cannot imagine. Your hands are waiting to become what they were always meant to be: instruments of conscious evolution, keys to hidden doorways, and vessels through which the infinite expresses itself in finite form. The question is not whether this power exists. The question is whether you are ready to claim your birthright as a conscious wielder of these sacred forces. Continue your journey with us as we explore more of these hidden teachings, for every step deeper into the mystery reveals new wonders, and every wonder opens doors to even greater possibilities. In the end, you may discover that the hands you thought you knew were always cosmic instruments, waiting for the moment when you would finally learn to play the music of the spheres.